everyone, this is Miss Aselson. Today we're going to be working on Unit 1 LT4 Notes Slope-Intercept form. The slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What that really means is the change in y over the change in x. Okay, to calculate slope, you need y2 minus y1. And my y values are going to be the second set of values in each set of parentheses. Okay, and then you're going to put that over your x values, which are x2 minus x1. My x values are going to be the first set within the parentheses. And I can remember that because x comes before y in an alphabet. Okay, then I'm going to go back to my y value. Okay, my first y is an 8. So I'm going to say 8, and the formula says the y1, or y2, minus y1. So my first y that I'm looking at is an 8, minus my second y, so minus 16. And I'm going to put that over my x values. So my x value is 2 minus 9. Okay, so if I have 8 minus 16, that's going to give me a negative 8. And use your calculator. If you're not sure about subtracting negative numbers or subtracting bigger numbers from smaller numbers, go ahead and use your calculator. Feel free to do that so you have an accurate number. Okay, and then 2 minus 9. So in your calculator, you just write 2 minus 9, and you're going to get a negative 7. Okay. So your slope would be negative 8 over negative 7. However, because you have a negative right here, and because you have a negative right here, so you have one in the numerator and one in the denominator, that really means that they're going to cancel each other out, and that's going to turn positive. So my slope really is 8/7. So my final answer should be 8/7. So we're going to do the exact same thing with the next one. We're going to say my y2 minus y1, and remember those y values are going to be your second set. Okay, and you're going to put that over your x values. So my x values, so x2 minus x1. Okay, and my x values are going to be this first set. Remember, x comes before y, so x's always come first. Okay, so my first y value is negative 16. All right, negative 16, and then the formula says minus. So I'm going to stick my subtraction in, but when I look at my second y value, it's also a negative. So if it's minus a negative, what I like to call that is a chunky plus. Because it's a minus a negative, I'm going to turn that whole thing into a big old plus mark and put my 15 in there. Okay, and then I'm going to go over, and now I'm going to look at my x values. So my first x value is a 19, and the formula says minus, so I'm going to say minus, but my second one is a negative again. So minus a negative, that is also going to turn into a chunky plus, and I'm just going to put my 7 after that. So now I have negative 16 plus 15 on the top, and 19 plus 7 on the bottom. So negative 16 plus 15 is going to give me a negative 1. I'm going to put that over 19 plus 7 is going to give me a 26. So my slope is going to be equal to negative 1 over 26. That could be the same if you got negative, let me move that, which is the same as, I don't know what I'm doing here. There we go. So that's going to be the same as, now it's a little bit slow on me, 1 over negative 26, which also could be negative 1 over 26. So those three things all mean the same. As long as you have only one negative in that entire fraction, you are good. They all mean the exact same thing. So let's do the same with this next one. So right away, I know I need y2 minus y1. Remember, my y values are the second set. And I'm put that over x2 minus x1. And my x values are these first ones. So that one here and this one right there. Okay, so now let's go back to our y values. Okay, so my y, my first y is a negative 19. So I'm just going to write negative 19. And the formula says minus. And my other one is also a negative 19. So if I put a negative 19 in there again, notice you have that negative and that negative. So just like the slide before, a negative and a negative are going to turn into a chunky plus positive. Okay, and I'm going to put that over. Now I'm going to find my x values. My first x value is 1. And you're going to subtract, so minus. And my second x value is also a negative, so minus a negative. So that turns into a chunky plus 2. Okay, so now I have negative 19 plus 19, which gives me a 0 on the top, over 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, so my change in y over my change in x is 0 over 3. Well, you can't have a 0 over 3. If you had 0 and you tried to divide it by 3, you would end up with nothing. There would be nothing left over. So you can't have 0 over 3. So that's just going to be a 0. You can't divide nothing by 3. My slope for that one is going to be 0. Okay, let's try the next one. So y2 minus y1. Remember, my y's are this set and this set. Okay, and I'm going to put those over my x2 minus my x1. And those x values are going to be this first set right here and right here. So now I'm going to go back to my y values. Okay, so I'm going to take this 7. Okay, so I'm going to say 7 minus, and my second y value is negative 4. So minus a negative 4, that's going to turn into a chunky plus 4, over, now I'm going to find my x values. My first x value is negative 4, and my second x value is negative 6. So minus a negative, there's another chunky plus, 6. Okay, now I'm just going to figure out 7 plus 4 is 11. And if you put negative 4 plus 6 in your calculator, you're going to be a positive 2. So your change in y over your change in x equals 11 over 2. So your slope is 11 over 2. Okay, so the slope-intercept formula of an equation. So your equation is y equals mx plus b. Okay, so your m of your slope, the m of your slope is what we were just figuring out. We were figuring out that m. Your b is your y-intercept, and you use this to graph equations. Okay, so m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. So when we're thinking y equals, oops, let's change that. So y equals mx plus b. Okay, this first letter is my x, and this second, sorry, not the first letter, the first number in parentheses, your first coordinate in parentheses is your x, and your second one is your y. Okay, when we put it in slope-intercept form, we're just filling in what we know. Okay, so it says y equals. So my y I see right here is a 2. So I'm going to say 2 equals my m. Remember, your m is your slope, which what we just figured out there. And this right here, it says m equals negative 6. So I'm just going to go back and I'm going to put that negative 6 in where my m is, negative 6. And then I have to use parentheses because now it's asking for my x. My x, I'm finding my first set right there. So my 9 is that x plus b. And we don't know our b. So that's what we're trying to figure out right now. What is our b? Okay, and now we're just going to solve this like we were solving last week. So the first thing, so we're kind of using like PEMDAS. So in order to do this, we have to distribute that negative 6 to the 9 or multiply negative 6 to 9. So negative 6 times 9 is going to give me a negative 54. So I'm going to put negative 54 plus b, and that's going to equal 2. Okay, I want to get this b all by itself. So in order to get that b all by itself, I have to do the opposite of minus 54. So the opposite of minus 54 is plus 54. If I add 54 over there, I also have to add 54 over here. 54 plus 2 is 56, and that's going to equal what we have left there. Our 54s are gone, so the only thing we have left is b. So I have b equals 56. So if I'm going to put that in slope-intercept form, we're going to say y equals negative 6x plus 56. So that is your slope-intercept form, and I'm just going to fix this 5. It doesn't really look like a 5 there. So y equals negative 6x plus 56. Okay, that's slope-intercept form. So let's do the same thing with this next one. So if we know we want to get it, y equals mx plus b. First we have to figure out what that b is. Okay, so let's plug in what we know. Remember that your first set of coordinates is your x. Your second one is your y. Okay, so I'm going to say my y is negative 3 equals, my m is my slope. So I'm going to say 2, parenthesis, my x is a negative 2, plus, we don't know b yet, so we're just sticking b in there. Okay, and now we're going to solve. 2 times negative 2 gives me a negative 4, and I still have plus b, and I still have negative 3 on that side. Okay, to get rid of your negative 4 and get b all by itself, you're going to plus 4 on the right side. If you add 4 to the right side, you have to add 4 to the left side. So negative 3 plus 4 is 1, so 1 equals, those 4's are gone, so 1 equals b. So now that we know what b is, we can put it in, y equals mx plus b. So y equals, my m is that 2, I'm going to just keep my x as an x, and then I'm going to put whatever my b is. So my b was a positive 1, so I'm going to put positive 1. So y equals 2x plus 1. Okay, we're going to continue on with number 7, where it says write the equation in the line in slope-intercept form given the point and the slope. Okay, so our slope, it gives us, our slope, remember, is our m. So it's saying our slope is 2/3, and then the points they're giving us are this one right here. Our first one is going to be our x, because remember, x comes before y, and our y is going to be our second one. Okay, and when we want slope-intercept form, we want y equals mx plus b. So we're just going to start with filling in what we know. Well, we know that our y is a 5. So I'm going to stick a negative 5, sorry, not just a 5, a negative 5 where that y is, equals m. M comes next. Well, it says our m is that negative 2/3. So write negative 2/3 times our x. Well, given in our formula, or in our parentheses, our x is a 3. So I'm going to put a 3 where that x is, plus b. And b is what we're looking for right now. Okay, and now we have to solve that. We want to get b all by itself. Well, to get b all by itself, first we have to distribute this negative 2/3 to that 3. Well, remember, negative 2/3 is kind of like negative 2 divided by 3. And to cancel a divide by 3, we multiply by 3. Well, notice you have a 3 right here that you're multiplying by. So that's kind of canceling both of those 3's out. So I'm just left with that -2. If you're unsure how to do that, you can also, in your calculator, put in -2/3, so put it in a fraction, and then just hit your multiplication button times 3, and that'll just pop up that -2. So it'll give you that -2 answer. So I still have -2 here. I still have plus b, and that's going to equal -5. Okay, to get rid of that -2, we want to get b all by itself. To get rid of that -2, I'm going to say plus 2. If I plus 2 on that side, I'm also, whoops, I changed colors here. Whoops, I did it again. I'm also, geez, I must be too close to there. There we go. I'm also going to plus 2 over here. So now I have -5 plus 2, so that's going to give me a -3, and that's going to equal my b. And to get it in slope-intercept form, I have to rewrite it so it says y equals. That's what slope-intercept form is, when you put it in y equals. So I'm just going to start with y equals, and then I start with my slope. Well, we know my slope is -2/3. And I'm just using x this time. I'm not filling them in. I'm just using the letter x. And then it's going to say plus whatever my b is. Well, because my b is a negative number, notice that my b is a -3. We could say plus a negative, or we can just say -3. So I could say plus a -3, but instead I'm just going to say -3, because that's my b. So y equals -2/3 x -3, and that's in slope-intercept form. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with number 8. So we know what our slope is. Our slope is this first m equals, so there's my slope. Okay, and then we have to find our x's and our y's. Well, my x always comes first, and my y always comes second. To put it in slope-intercept form, first we have to fill in y equals mx plus b. Fill in what we know and get b all by itself. Okay, so my y, and it's saying, I see right there that my y is a 4. So I'm just going to start with 4 equals my m, which I already know, my m is that slope, 1/2, and then I'm going to use parentheses. My x is a -2, so put a -2 in there. 1/2 -2, and then it's plus b. My formula is plus b. Okay, in order to solve this, first I have to distribute that 1/2 to that -2. Well, just like before, 1/2 is kind of like 1 divided by 2. The opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2. So we are already multiplying by 2 right here. So those cancel those 2's out, but we're still left with this negative. So that negative is now going to be carried over to that 1. So 1/2 of -2 is going to be -1. So I'm going to keep that -1 right here, and I still have plus b, and that's going to equal 4. To get rid of that -1, I'm going to add 1 on the right side. If I add on the right side, I have to add on the left side. So now I have 5 equals b. Well, now I want to put it in slope-intercept form. Now that I know what my b is, slope-intercept form is y equals. So y equals m, which is 1/2, and then I'm just going to say x, and because my b is already positive, I'm going to say plus 5. So y equals 1/2 x plus 5. Okay, we're going to continue putting it in slope-intercept form because that's what the directions are asking us. We know, again, my m comes first, and then I have my x and my y in parentheses. X comes first because it's first, x comes before y in the alphabet. When I said m comes first, that m is my slope. I was just saying it's coming at the beginning of that, that line right there. Okay, so let's go back. We need to have y equals mx plus b. So we're going to fill in what we know. We know our y is 7 equals, my m is 4, my x is 6 plus b. Okay, so 4 times 6 is 24 plus b equals 7. That's a positive 24. To get rid of a positive 24, we're going to subtract 24. So minus 24 here. If I subtract 24 there, I also have to subtract 24 on the left side. So 7 minus 24 is going to give me a negative 17. And that's going to equal my b. Okay, now we have to put it in slope-intercept form. So y equals my m, 4x, and because my slope is negative, or not my slope, my b is negative, so when you're looking right here, you see you have that negative. Instead of saying plus b, we're going to say minus 17. So y equals 4x minus 17. Okay, let's look at number 10. Again, my m comes first, and my m is that slope. Okay, and then I have my x and my y. So y equals mx plus b. Okay, my y is a 2 equals, my m is negative 1/2 x. Whoops, and don't put your x there. Got to put your number in there. So instead of putting x, we're going to put our negative 4. And then you throw in your plus b. Okay, now we're going to distribute that negative 1/2 to that negative 4. So notice that I have a negative right here, and I have a negative right here. Because those are two negatives turn into a positive. So 1/2, negative 1/2 of negative 4 is going to give you a positive 2. So I have a positive 2 plus b equals 2. To get rid of that 2, we're going to subtract on this side. So subtract on this side. So now we have b all by itself. 2 minus 2 is 0. Those are gone. So our b is 0. So now let's put it in slope-intercept form. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 0. And it's okay to have a 0 right there. That means you don't have a slope. Okay, this one says write an equation of the line in point-slope form. So if we're using point-slope form, the first thing we need to do is find the slope. And it looks like number 10 we did already. That was on the previous slide. So let's move on so we can do point-slope form. So to do that, we also need to find the slope, or the m. We were given the m before, now we're finding it just like we did when we started this lesson. Okay, so remember our x's come first, and our y's come second. Okay, and we need the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to say y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so I'm going to start with my y's. So I'm saying negative 12 minus 4 over, now I'm going to find my x's, 4 minus 8. Okay, negative 12 minus 4 is going to give me a negative 16, and 4 minus 8 is going to give me a negative 4. Okay, remember when we talked about that if you have a negative in your numerator and in your denominator, it turns into a positive. So this really is going to be 16 over 4, which gives me a 4. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. So my m equals 4. Okay, now I'm just going to fill in what I know. So now I'm going to move into y equals mx plus b, and I can use any set. I can either use this first set as my x and my y, or I can use the second set. I like to avoid negatives, so I'm going to choose this second set because I think it's going to be a little bit easier. Okay, so y equals, so I'm going to start with my 4, my 4 equals, and now I have to find my m. Well, remember we already found our m. 4 equals 4 times our x. Well, our x, we're gonna come back up here, and that's our 8. We're gonna use that 4 and that 8 that go together, plus b. Distribute that 4 to that 8. 4 times 8 is 32, plus b equals 4. And then to get rid of that 32, I'm going to minus 32, minus 32. So I have 28 equals, so that'd be a negative 28, equals b. Okay, I'm running out of room here. Let's see if I can. Not sure where to put it here. So now we're going to fill in. So now that I know what my b is, I have to do y equals mx plus b. Okay, so y equals my m, 4x, and because this one is a negative 28, notice it's a negative 28, instead of saying plus 28, I'm going to say minus 28, so minus my b. And actually this one should say, instead of point slope form, we're going to say slope intercept form. So the same form you were just using, that shouldn't say point slope form, that should say point intercept form. Just mix that up. That shouldn't say point slope form, it should say slope intercept form. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to find my x value or my y values, and then I'm going to find my x values and find my slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so I'm going to say 1 minus a negative 3, remember that's going to be a chunky plus then, over 2 minus 0. So 1 plus 3 is 4, 2 minus 0 is 2. So my slope, my m, equals 2. Okay, so now I'm going to put it in y equals mx plus b. Okay, so my y, so I'm going to pick either this set or this set. Remember, I don't like to work with negative numbers, and I see I have a negative 3 in my second set, so I'm going to stick with these two right here. So y1 equals my m times my x, so times my 2, plus b. 2 times 2 is 4, plus b equals 1. To get rid of that plus 4, I'm going to say minus 4, minus 4. So negative 3 equals b. So now, to put it in slope-intercept form, y equals my m, remember your m is back up here, y equals 2, oops, I changed colors on you, x minus 3. Instead of plus b, because this 3 is a negative, we're going to say minus 3. So there's your slope-intercept form here. Okay, and let's do the same for this last one. So we have our y's and we have our x's. Okay, so let's do our y's. Negative 1 minus 3 over 0 minus 2. Negative 1 minus 3 is going to give me a negative 4. And 0 minus 2 is going to give me a negative 2. Okay, again, because I have a negative here and a negative here, those cancel each other out. So that's just like saying 4 over 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So my m equals 2. Okay, now we need it in y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to look at both my sets. I can use this one or that one. Remember, I don't like to work with negative numbers, so I'm going to choose the one that does not have negative numbers. Okay, so my y is 3 equals my m, which we found earlier is 2, times my x, which is 2, plus b. 2 times 2 is 4, plus b. That's going to equal 3. Subtract 4, subtract 4. Okay, so -1 equals b. Those 4's are gone. So I'm going to put it in y equals my m times my x. And again, because this right here is negative, instead of saying plus b, we're going to say -1. Okay, this concludes the notes for Unit 1, LT4. Please stop. You will have teachers walking around to help you and answer questions. If you are not in class and have questions, send us a Schoology message, send us an email, and we will get back to you to help you and support you. But don't be afraid to ask questions if you have some.